This is part 4 of a series of videos following the course of HMS Prince of Wales, the second Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carrier and the Fleet Flagship of the Royal Navy, which deployed on an 8-month mission to lead an international task force to the Indo-Pacific named as UK Carrier Strike Group 25. Its mission, called Operation High Mast, began in April 2025 and will end in December. In the last video we followed HMS Prince of Wales as she led the Carrier Strike Group 25 from Suez Bay, island of Crete, through the Mediterranean Sea on a direct heading to reach Port Said and the entrance to the western lane of the Suez Canal. The 596-mile journey was completed within 2 days. Here the British Navy carrier approaches the Egyptian coast with Port Said firmly in her sights. The British carrier entered the 120-mile or 193-kilometre long canal on the 24th of May 2025. HMS Prince of Wales is nearing the end of her Suez Canal transit. Unfortunately for her crew, they will remain on alert as the British carrier enters the Gulf of Suez and then navigating the Red Sea. As HMS Prince of Wales leads the UK Carrier Strike Group 25 towards the Red Sea and past the coastline of Yemen, the Royal Navy officers will be acutely aware that Houthi rebels have attacked more than 100 ships in the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden and Arabian Sea since October 2023. The British carrier will deploy appropriate military assets such as helicopter and F-35B aircraft as she heightens a defensive state of readiness and, if required, will take strong action to nullify any threat. On the 24th of May, HMS Prince of Wales navigated through the Gulf of Aden without incident and crossed into the open waters of the Arabian Sea on 20th of May 2025. Her next port of call is Singapore, the city-state in Southeast Asia, a journey of some 3,800 miles or 6,000 kilometres, a typical seafaring journey of around 8 days. However, HMS Prince of Wales, while in the Arabian Sea, is scheduled to launch numerous F-35B Lightning jet training operations and landings. Here, on the 10th of June, F-35B are launching into blue skies with some cloud cover above the Arabian Sea. We estimate the British carrier's position at this point is around 750 miles off the Indian coastline. You may want to take a mental note of this F-35B aircraft, identified as number 034. On the 14th of June, this Royal Navy F-35B Lightning II from 809 Naval Air Squadron, aircraft identification number 034, assigned to HMS Prince of Wales, combined with Royal Air Force 617 Squadron, launched from the carrier in a standard training mission. HMS Prince of Wales at this point had navigated through the Arabian Sea and entered the Indian Ocean, some miles off the southwestern tip of Indian Peninsula. All the carrier's flight plans for the 14th of June 2025 did not require any aircraft to fly near the Indian coast or across India's Air Defence Identification Zone, known as ADIZ. It's a designated area of airspace, over land or water, where India requires the ready identification, location and control of all aircraft in the interest of national security. The F-35B Lightning II, identification number 034, purportedly did return back to the carrier on the 14th of June and made several attempts to land on HMS Prince of Wales flight deck while battling through adverse weather conditions. As seen here, this is the actual aircraft conducting a textbook vertical landing with aircraft number 025 on 5th of May 2025. Could this actually be the pilot flying the F-35B aircraft on the 14th of June? A statement from the Indian Air Force confirmed a British F-35B fighter jet made an emergency landing at Thiruvananthapuram International Airport in Kerala on Saturday night, 14th of June 2025, due to reportedly low fuel. The pilot sought permission to land from the airport's air traffic control around 21:20. Upon landing, the pilot was able to leave the aircraft safely and sought a chair so as to sit near the aircraft. British officials later revealed that the jet, which took off on the UK Royal Navy's flagship aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales, was conducting sorties in the Indian Ocean. The jet was undertaking routine flying outside of the Indian Air Defence Identification Zone when it encountered difficulties. The Air Force said Thiruvananthapuram International Airport was earmarked as the emergency recovery field. The pilot, identified as Mike, after landing and now sat on a chair opposite his stricken aircraft, completed customs and immigration formalities. However, when Indian Air Force officials arrived to escort him for security procedures, he refused to leave the immediate vicinity of the jet, insisting he rest first on a chair. After some negotiations, he finally accompanied the officials inside the airport. The following morning, 15th of June, HMS Prince of Wales sent Royal Navy engineers by Merlin helicopter to initially assess the situation. Unconfirmed reports suggest that the engineers discovered a hydraulic system failure, critical for controlling landing gear, brakes and flight surfaces, meaning a failure renders the aircraft unflyable. It's also reported, again unconfirmed, that the aircraft software system automatically shut down once the aircraft landed safely. It could not be rebooted. The RAF engineers were unsuccessful at attempts to repair the aircraft. As a result, a 40-member team, along with specialised equipment, is to be flown in from the UK to address the undisclosed issue. The Indian authorities offered to move the F-35B to a hangar to shelter it from the monsoon rain. The offer was declined due to security concerns over the F-35's sensitive technology receiving unauthorised, unwanted scrutiny. The F-35 was initially guarded by India's Central Industrial Security Force. However, a RAF security team was sent to guard the aircraft. As of the 3rd of July, it is still outside on the tarmac. There is no news on Mike the pilot, who has spent several days guarding the F-35B aircraft as part of his RAF security protocols training. As of the 4th of July 2025, there are renewed discussions about using the airport's maintenance, repair and overhaul facility, quite possibly to prepare the F-35B to be airlifted by a C-17 Globemaster transport aircraft. This would require some disassembly to the F-35B aircraft, but final clearance on this last resort is pending. On the 5th of July, the UK 40-member engineering team landed at the airport. If it fails to repair the F-35 aircraft in a timely manner, then the airlift plan will be initiated by the UK 40-member team and Indian engineers. The Ministry of Defence said the aircraft remains under British military control at all times. Here on the 15th of June, HMS Prince of Wales is filmed in the Indian Ocean, sailing through choppy waters. Above her, a P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft from the Australian Defence Force flies past her. It's likely at this stage Commodore James Blackmore, commander of the UK Carrier Strike Group directing operations on board the British carrier, and commanding officer of HMS Prince of Wales, Captain Will Blackett, have ordered the UK Carrier Strike Group to continue its 8th-month mission and leave behind the stricken F-35B in Kerala. The British carrier will now spend the next 6 days navigating the 1,436 miles or 2,311 kilometres through the Indian Ocean on a heading to the northwest tip of Sumatra Island, Indonesia. There she will gain access to the Malacca Strait, which divides Malaysia and Sumatra, before heading into Singapore Strait, and finally on day 8 she will berth at the prominent Marina Bay Cruise Centre, which faces the spectacular skyline of Singapore. On the dockside by the Marina Bay Cruise Centre, hundreds of well-wishers are waiting to welcome this mighty British ship and to greet many of her crew, who will soon disembark for some rest and recuperation time. Yes, this great carrier has one aircraft less, and lessons will be learned. However, her deployment continues. I will leave you with these fabulous shots. Part 5 of this series of videos continues to follow the journey of the UK Carrier Strike Group as it sails further eastwards. Thanks for watching.